All right. So this is our first ever live How to Be Happy podcast. And it's myself, Brad Chandler, here with Greg Gilmore from beautiful Miami. Is it sunny there today, Greg?
Right there, man. Right there.
So we
Sun's coming in, beating in.
nice. Is it a beach day or you've got other things to do?
Well, it's not a beach day for me, but it will be. Always love to see the water, so I will take time out to well, I can see it from here, but
That's
walk
awesome.
over and sit by the bay for a few minutes. So
Awesome. Awesome. So Greg, what do you do for a living?
yeah, so I am historically I was in corporate medical device sales for Fortune 500 companies. So I've been in sales my entire career, starting in pharmaceuticals, and have an undergraduate degree and in chemistry, and so an MBA, and just that whole like going down the corporate route. And a few years ago, I left that industry and felt somehow I'd failed, and as a result, I worked through those issues and found coaching and RTT through own my own path. I ended up finding these things that at a at the right place at the right time, and that's what I do now is coach. I'm a life coach and an RTT therapist, or
What is
RTT
RTT? What is RTT?
rapid transformational therapy. Marissa Peer, uh, pretty well known uh, hypnotherapist from the UK, put together her process for 35 years, which was in using hypnosis to help people get beyond their limiting beliefs. And that process differs from regular hypnotherapy. It's just what she learned. As she says, she learned from her clients, and she saw what worked, and she put it into a process that she's now teaching somewhere around 14,000 people, and you are one of them. We were in LA together last week, I'm sure we had a blast, and I know you probably share that with everyone as well. But
Well, that's what I was the topic of today's conversation, Greg, is we had a phenomenal conversation. And you actually laid out the three secrets on how a person can radically transform their life. You were saying there has to be three components if someone wants to change, because you and I have witnessed hundreds of people, including ourselves, go through this radical transformation. And both of us had those three elements. So can you share with what are those three elements that are just critical to transforming your life to find the freedom and happiness that everyone deserves?
yeah, so I've come to believe, and thank you for your kind words about our discussion. I mean, I've come to believe that to process change in your life, you have to do these three things, or you have to have these three things. And the first one is desire. And it doesn't have to be a ton of desire. You just have to see that something needs to change, or that you would like for something to change. And then take steps toward it. But number two, and of significant importance, is being willing to look at your issue from a different perspective. So not being stuck as a victim, or as a hero, or even a victimizer, not being stuck in whatever role you're playing. And that is part of another discussion about the victim triangle, which we have to get off of. And then number three, it's really important to pay attention to how you feel. So in this society, we're constantly being taught that we do things for others, and we put others first. And many people who are specifically somewhat have sensitivity, who are born with being more sensitive, and I mean there's a spectrum on that, of course, are more likely to put other people first, and that's detrimental. So it's not that you don't put other people first, but you care about how you feel. So you have to go and raise your emotion to happiness or joy, which are higher vibrational emotions. And I loved it when I heard for the first time, emotion is just energy in motion. And I'm like, what? Boom. That made a big difference. And it is. So when you think about the way that beliefs are made, they are thoughts that you continue to think. And that's all it is. So you can change your thoughts, and you can change your life, because once you've jumped into a thought, you end up creating a feeling and an emotion, and then it becomes an action or a non-action, and then that becomes your essential reality, your results. So getting the right feelings, if you're following all feelings that are negative, you're going to go somewhere negative.
So number one, desire to change. Number two, a willingness to look at things from a different perspective. And number three, a desire to change a mental state.
Yep.
Is there one of those that stands out more than the other? Like if you're like, if I only have one, or do you need all three of them?
So, I mean, they are very interconnected, but I think if you're willing to look, so what am I really saying with willing to look at your issue from a different perspective? I'm really saying step out and see what's going well here. That's gratitude. And if you can instill gratitude into your life, then you're able to move outside of the box, off of that triangle, and outside of whatever's holding you back right now. So I think that's the most important thing, because when people are, and we see it everywhere right now. We see it in our political system. We see it in our corporations. We see that people are stuck in their belief system, so much so that they're going to try to find the solution for the problem that was created using that same exact energy and that same perspective. And Einstein said, the solution to the problem is not in the same perspective. Or he didn't say it like that, but
yeah, you look at the same. If you try to solve the problem, get the solution with the problem, it doesn't work. You got to see things from
you got to look at it from another perspective. And that's also a part of Course in Miracles, is that if you're willing to look at something from a different perspective, that God will send you an answer. And that really resonated with me and made all the difference for me.
Yeah, Course in Miracles is amazing. So Greg, you and I both went through in the last me 20 months ago, I think you 5 years ago, like a radical transformation in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Did you have these three things when you started your journey?
So no, I wouldn't say. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't, not when I started it. So I started it by just having a little desire to move in a different direction. You can only do things over and over, getting the same result. I remember specifically thinking one day, why am I attracting the same people over and over? It was like there was a vacancy sign outside of my condo that said, hey, there's room here. The next exact version of that person, come on over. And I was like, what is going on? And then I realized too, so I had the desire to move forward, and I had the desire to look at it. And I think that was the most impressive part for me. And I would say that the universe, or God, as I would refer to it, was sending me all the right people, places, events, and experiences that I needed to learn the lesson. And that's the other thing. We're really here to learn what we are, right? And if we're not taking something from everything that is happening, then we're wasting the lesson. And so I remember walking into my kitchen one day and saying to myself, I just stopped and I thought, why am I acting like someone who's been abandoned? And, time kind of stands still for you in moments like that. And I get it. I believe that I have been abandoned, or that I will be. And that's just as bad.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use the word bad, but that's just as detrimental to your well-being if you think that someone's going to leave you if they find out who you are. And who I was, in my mind, through a subconscious belief that I discovered in RTT, was a disappointment.
Right. And it's fascinating how we find people who are just like the people who help us create our trauma, because I did it twice. We all do it. And so when I speak to people about how to find happiness, or, that's all through self-love and self-compassion, and people are like, well, I love myself. I'm like, oh, you do? Okay. I hope you do. But let me ask you some questions. Do you judge people? Do you judge yourself? Are you often angry? What do your relationships look like? Because that's a telltale sign. are you 40 years old, 30 years old, 60 years old, and just had one broken relationship after the next? Those are all indications that you've got work to do. So it's interesting. It happens to us all.
Yeah. And you're so interesting. I forget what I was going to say about that, but yeah, we tend to either attract the same people or try to fix the same people, and or both. Exactly. And that's what I was doing. I was just avoiding myself and trying to fix other people, because when I'm spending all my time on someone else, then I don't have to spend my time on myself. But that's codependency. But what I like most about the term codependency is that recently I've seen people that it's going away and being replaced by what you just mentioned, and that's self-love deficit disorder, which I don't love anything being called a disorder, but that's what it is, right? It's you don't have love for yourself. If you're out trying to fix other people, it shows that you're finding a deficit in yourself in some level. And what's great about that, though, and what I love to say about love, is that if you don't think you have it, try giving it away, because it comes back to you 10 times. And giving is receiving, as well as giving is proof of having. You can't give it away if you don't have it. So,
yeah, I mean, you and I both read. I'm in the process of reading Gabor Mate's, one of my mentors, and love him to death, a physician. He's been a physician for 40 years. And he talks about a correlation between the sickest people in the world with cancer and autoimmune disease being those people who are the nicest, kindest people who do nothing but give, and don't focus on themselves. So that book is absolutely fantastic.
It's holding everything down. It's like a pressure cooker, within you for everything. And it results in physical issues, not to mention the emotional ones.
Yeah. So let's talk about why it is that people lack self-love and self-compassion. And lack of self-love and self-compassion, in my opinion, leads to 99.9% of every world problem we have, whether it's rape, molestation, prisons being full, terrorism, addictions, obesity. Those are all from a lack of self-love. And you and I have done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of studying on this and working with clients, and we understand that lack of self-love can be very simply fixed in a matter, not years and years in talk therapy, but we've seen and we've done it in a matter of hours, right? And it's this simple.
Marissa says 20 seconds, not 20 years.
Yeah. So it's very simple, right? How do you find self-love and self-compassion? You don't have it because you've told yourself untruths that were formed as coping mechanisms through childhood trauma. So all you have to do is turn those around, right?
So that's the number one thing, right? What do we say that all of your issues are based on? It is that you don't think you're enough, you feel different and therefore can't connect, or that there's something that you want, but you don't believe that it's available to you. So turn that around in a positive way and say you could cure literally everything in your life if you would believe these three things: that you are enough, that you can connect, and that everything that you want is available to you on some level, right?
Yes.
So, and what do we really want? This is another great question that I love from my studying in the course. What we think we want is something outside of us, but what we really want is peace. And of course would say the peace of God, right? And wow. But the truth is, we already have it. We came onto this planet perfect. We knew we were perfect, but we've added a bunch of stuff to us, like moss on a stone, covering up our brilliance.
Yeah. So those three simple things, and really it comes down to one simple thing, is just living in the truth. I tell people all the time, you cannot suffer as a human being if you're living in the truth. But why do people suffer? Because they say, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, I can't get what I want. Those are all untruths. And your brain created those as a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old. Your brain did exactly what it should have done to create those to help you get through that stress or your trauma. But
the brain's working great.
47, 57, it's still telling you that same thing, and it's not true. The truth came from your imperfect parents or imperfect caregivers putting their imperfect beliefs on you.
Yeah, and that's not their fault, and that's not your fault, right? No. So, yeah, it's a process of unlearning, which makes it so much more simple. It's not easy. It's just simple. And once you see it, and as you learned over the last several months, in RTT, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And especially when you see it in a state of relaxation, meditation, or hypnosis, it's like, well, that was silly. Why was I holding on to that belief? I got that when I was 5 and it wasn't actually true. And, that was something I wanted to say when you said you cannot suffer if you don't, if you're in your truth or in that truth. Well, what is the number one truth? That it's all happening right now. So if you're living in the future or living in the past, you're inviting in suffering.
Right. And that's what trauma does, right? It takes you out of the present, takes you
out of the presence. Yeah.
And it's really hard to be happy when you're not living in the presence, because don't allow your imagination to rob you of the future or your memory to rob you of the past. Heaven on earth is right now, right at this second. If you just remain present, all of that stuff goes away.
So another thing that blew my mind is just what you just said is when I heard that the symbolic meaning of the cross beyond the crucifixion and resurrection, it is that the cross is the earthly plane intersecting with the eternal or spirit, God's plane or spirit plane. And that's now right there in the center. It's the only place where God's timing and our timing intersect. It's constantly with us.
Right
now and right now. Now. Right? So cool.
So, Greg, this has been an awesome first How to Be Happy podcast. Yeah. I want you to, if you can, just close with what do you think is the most significant thing that the listeners should take away from this?
Yeah, just connect to yourself. Connect to something. We look outside of ourselves. We say, oh, that person over there, that if I could just get that guy or that girl, or if I could get that car, that's going to make me happy. It's not there. It's not outside of you. It's inside. So in society today, we're going down this road to making ourselves special, which is a judgment, by the way. You can judge negatively and you can judge positively, but in any case, it's judgment, and that gets you right outside of love with a capital L. So know that if going inside and finding out what you really want and realizing that is peace, it's not this thing or that thing outside of you, and it's always been there. Yeah.
So Greg and I have seen this happen hundreds and hundreds of times, where someone who's been to traditional therapy for 20, 30 years comes to an RTT, rapid transformational therapist, and literally in a matter of hours, we've both personally done it, a matter of hours, their life is forever changed. So if you're watching this and you're suffering and you're like, but I've tried all that stuff, I've tried all that. Well, you haven't tried RTT. You haven't tried accessing your subconscious mind through hypnosis, likely. And I'm here to tell you, you do not have to suffer 1 second longer. Your suffering can be ended in literally a matter of hours if you have these 3 things at the bottom of the screen: desire to change, willingness to look at things from a different perspective, and willingness to change your emotional state. Whether you get help from Greg or I or someone else, we just want you to know that you do not have to suffer any longer.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brad.
You guys make it an awesome day. And today's a good day for a good day all day. And love heals all.
Absolutely.